In a peaceful suburban neighborhood in America, everything seems perfect. The streets are calm, the houses are neatly kept, and the neighbors all know each other. It looks like the ideal place to live, a place where families raise their children and people take pride in their homes. But behind the front doors of the Andersons' house, things are far from perfect. John Anderson is a 40-year-old man who works long hours at his corporate job. He's dedicated to his career, spending most of his time at the office. At first, John didn't mind missing family dinners or spending less time with his wife, Emily. But recently, he feels something is off. His wife doesn't seem as happy as she used to, and their relationship has become more distant. John tells himself it's just work stress, but deep down, he knows something is wrong. Emily, 35, is the typical American suburban wife, charming, social, and always involved in community activities. She's known for hosting neighborhood parties, helping out at local events, and keeping a busy schedule. Everyone in the neighborhood loves her. But despite her outgoing nature, Emily feels unfulfilled in her marriage. She loves John, but their relationship has become routine, and she longs for something more exciting. Then, things change when the Khan family's son, Amir, comes back to the neighborhood after studying abroad. Amir is different from the other men. Emily knows he's smart, confident, and respectful. Emily is drawn to him, and their casual conversations slowly turn into something more meaningful. Amir, 25, has returned to the neighborhood after studying abroad, and he's not the same young man who left. He's now more mature, intelligent, and charismatic. He's respectful, and people in the neighborhood notice his quiet confidence, including Emily. When Amir and Emily start talking more often, Emily can't ignore the chemistry between them. He listens to her in a way John no longer does, and she finds herself craving his attention. Soon, what started as a friendly connection turns into a secret affair. As the weeks go by, Emily and Amir start talking more. Amir asks Emily about her life, her thoughts, and her dreams. He listens to her in a way that John no longer does. Emily begins to feel seen and appreciated by him. She looks forward to their talks and enjoys the way he makes her feel important. Amir doesn't just talk about himself. He genuinely cares about Emily's feelings. He asks questions, gives her advice, and listens closely. With each conversation, Emily begins to feel a connection to him, one that she doesn't have with John. Emily knows she's getting too close to Amir, but she can't deny the pull she feels toward him. What started as friendly chats begins to feel like something more. One evening, after a chance encounter while running errands, Emily finds herself alone with Amir in the quiet, serene garden behind her house. They had been talking casually in the front yard when the conversation unexpectedly takes a deeper turn. Amir, noticing how tired and drained Emily seems, gently asks how she's been feeling. Emily, at first hesitant, opens up about her struggles, her loneliness, her growing frustration with her marriage, and her need for something more. Amir listens intently, his eyes filled with understanding and empathy. It's the first time in a long while that Emily feels truly heard. As the conversation flows, there's a quiet but undeniable shift. Amir gently touches her hand in a gesture of comfort, and Emily's heart skips a beat. She realizes how much she's missed feeling this kind of connection with someone. Amir's presence feels comforting, almost intoxicating, and the chemistry between them is undeniable. Neither says it, but both understand that something has just changed. This moment, innocent at first, marks the beginning of something that neither of them fully grasps yet. In the following days, their secret connection grows stronger. Emily begins to look for reasons to see Amir, inventing small excuses to drop by his house or meet him in places where no one would find them. They start meeting in hidden corners of the neighborhood behind the park, at the edge of the nearby woods, and sometimes even in the quiet, secluded spots of the local coffee shop. Every stolen moment feels like an escape for Emily from the suffocating loneliness at home. Their meetings start out as conversations innocent enough, but with a shared intensity that builds each time. The attraction between them becomes hard to ignore. Soon, their talks turn more personal, more intimate. They share stories, desires, and experiences that they've never shared with anyone else. Amir doesn't just listen to Emily, he makes her feel seen in a way that John never did. Slowly, the bond between them deepens into something neither of them planned but both secretly crave. One afternoon, in a secluded park, they give in to the undeniable pull between them. Amir kisses Emily, and though her mind screams in guilt, her body responds with a rush of emotions she hasn't felt in years. It's a brief kiss, but it changes everything. From that moment on, their secret affair is no longer a mere emotional connection. It becomes something passionate and dangerous. They meet in hidden spots, always aware that their love is forbidden, but unable to resist the thrill it gives them. Emily's life begins to revolve around these secret meetings, and she's both exhilarated and terrified by what she's doing. Despite the joy and excitement the affair brings, guilt weighs heavily on Emily's mind. She knows what she's doing is wrong. She's betraying her husband, John, and breaking the trust they once had. But Emily convinces herself that she deserves this happiness. After all, she reasons, she has been neglected for years. John's absence, both physically and emotionally, left her feeling isolated and unloved. She tells herself that she's not doing this out of malice, but out of a need for the affection and connection that John no longer provides. The guilt doesn't stop her. Instead, it feeds the desire for more. Emily starts telling herself that she needs Amir. He makes her feel alive in ways she's forgotten. The passion and attention he gives her are things she thought she would never experience again. She feels torn between the guilt of betraying her marriage and the overwhelming sense of fulfillment that being with Amir brings. In moments of doubt, she tries to justify it to herself, telling herself that she's simply finding happiness in a place that's been denied to her at home. While Emily is caught up in her secret affair, John begins to notice subtle but troubling changes in her behavior. At first, it's small things: Emily's frequent absences, her late nights out, and the new excitement in her step. She's no longer the same woman he once knew. Her usual routine of caring for the house and hosting friends has shifted. Emily starts spending more time away from home, taking longer walks, going to the gym, or meeting friends for coffee, and John can't help but wonder where she's really going. John also notices her increasingly secretive behavior. She's become more protective of her phone, often texting late at night, but always with her screen turned away when he's nearby. When he asks her who she's texting, she's quick to brush it off with vague answers. He catches her looking at her phone with a smile, one that isn't meant for him. Her smile, once reserved for him, now seems reserved for someone else. At first, John brushes it off, assuming she's just finding ways to fill her time. But as the days go by, his suspicions grow. He feels an unease in his gut, an inkling that something is not right. It's not just the changes in her behavior, it's the way she seems to glow with a new, unexplainable happiness. For the first time in years, Emily is laughing more, her mood lighter, but there's something distant in her eyes. John can't shake the feeling that he's losing her, and deep down, he begins to wonder if there's someone else. One evening, John comes home after a long, exhausting day at work. Emily is in the kitchen, preparing dinner, and the house is filled with the usual warmth of their home. As John sets down his briefcase, his eyes inadvertently fall on Emily's phone. which is left unattended on the kitchen counter. A text notification pings across the screen. The message is from Amir. I can't wait to see you tonight, my love. We'll make it our secret again, just like we always do. John's heart stops. He stands frozen for a moment, staring at the message, unable to believe what he's seeing. The words don't make sense. Amir. Love. Secret. These words don't belong in his life. He knows something is terribly wrong, but he can't quite comprehend it. He's shocked, confused, and furious all at once. His mind races, trying to make sense of the text, but nothing adds up. He doesn't confront Emily immediately. He knows he needs to process what he's just discovered. The realization crashes down on him slowly. His wife has been hiding something from him, and it's not just an affair. It's a betrayal that cuts deeper than he could have imagined. His world suddenly feels like it's falling apart. Over the next few days, John can't shake the feeling that something isn't right. He begins to observe Emily more closely, paying attention to her behavior in ways he hadn't before. He notices how she avoids eye contact, how she seems distracted and preoccupied. Her mood swings, from giddy to anxious, are now impossible to ignore. John feels like a stranger in his own home. One day, John decides to follow her. He can't bear the uncertainty any longer, so he secretly watches her leave the house. Emily drives to a local park, a place they used to visit together years ago. John waits at a distance, his heart racing with fear and anticipation. When he sees her meet Amir by the park's edge, it's as if the air is knocked out of him. They embrace briefly before sitting on a bench, laughing and talking intimately. The way Amir looks at her, the way she smiles, touches his arm, everything confirms the truth John had feared but couldn't bring himself to acknowledge. His wife is having an affair, and it's with the man next door. John watches for a few minutes, his body tense with rage, jealousy, and disbelief. It feels like an out-of-body experience. The image of them together is burned into his mind. Emily, the woman he loved, is sharing her heart with someone else, and it's all happening under his nose. He can't stay hidden any longer. His anger boils over as he storms off to confront the situation. John's frustration reaches a boiling point, and he decides to confront Amir's family directly. His emotions are raw, and the pain of betrayal pushes him to act impulsively. He drives over to the Khan family's house that evening, knocking on their door with a forceful urgency. Amir's parents, Najma and Rahim, answer the door, their faces puzzled when they see John standing there, his fists clenched with barely contained rage. "Where is your son?" John demands, his voice shaking with anger. Najma and Rahim exchange confused glances. "What is this about?" Rahim asks, his voice calm but wary. "I know about the affair," John snaps, his voice rising. "Your son has been sleeping with my wife. You knew, didn't you? You had to have known." The room falls silent. Najma's face pales, and Rahim's expression hardens. John's accusation has taken them completely off guard. Calm demeanor they've maintained all this time begins to crumble as they process the explosive truth. Najma's eyes well with tears, and Rahim, though clearly disturbed, tries to maintain control. "This is not true," Najma says, but her voice lacks conviction. "It's not a lie," John shouts. "I saw them together. You've been letting this go on under your roof. This is your son's doing. He's the one who's been destroying my family." Rahim steps forward, trying to calm John. "Please, let's talk about this calmly. Amir is a good boy. We would never have allowed anything like this to happen." But John isn't listening. He's consumed by his fury and hurt, and nothing can calm him down. The tension in the room is palpable, each side now standing firmly entrenched in their own perspective. Najma, in a mixture of disbelief and sorrow, begins to weep, while Rahim takes a defensive stance. They had no idea the extent of what was happening right under their own roof. In the heat of the moment, John's words cut deeper. "You and your son have ruined everything. My family is destroyed because of your son's actions, and now I'm left to cut the pieces." Confrontation, full of raw emotions, brings the two families to an uncomfortable standstill. John storms out, his anger unresolved, while Amir's parents are left to confront the horrifying truth about their son's betrayal. The cultural and familial tensions rise as old bonds are strained, and the quiet neighborhood is suddenly filled with whispers of scandal and disgrace. John, feeling betrayed and hurt, finally confronts Emily about the affair. He's been noticing her strange behavior for a while, secretive phone calls, missing time, and an unusual happiness. When Emily admits to the affair, John's world shatters. He can't believe what she's done, and he's furious. His anger grows, and he decides to take matters into his own hands by confronting Amir directly. He accuses Amir of ruining his marriage and destroying his life. The confrontation doesn't stay between John and Emily. John storms over to Amir's house and demands an explanation from Amir's parents. They're shocked by the accusations and the chaos. Amir's mother insists that Amir must end the affair immediately, warning him that their family's reputation is at risk if the affair continues. But Amir, torn between his feelings for Emily and his loyalty to his family, knows he must let her go. Despite the growing pressure, Emily and Amir arrange to meet one last time. They choose a quiet spot in the park to talk. It's clear that the affair is coming to an end, and both of them are heartbroken. Amir explains that he must listen to his parents and end things with her, even though it's painful. Emily is devastated, but she knows that continuing the affair is impossible now. They talk about the love they shared and the dreams they once had, but both understand that they must part ways. There's a sense of finality in their words as they say goodbye, knowing they can't continue the secret relationship any longer. The situation finally explodes when John, still filled with rage and hurt, confronts both Emily and Amir together. He accuses them of destroying his life and tearing apart their family. He's furious and no longer cares about the consequences. He just wants them to understand the damage they've caused. Emily tries to calm him down, but John's anger is too strong. He shouts at her, blaming her for everything, and tells her that he can never forgive her for what she's done. Amir, who's already been dealing with his own guilt and pressure, tries to stay calm, but the confrontation grows more intense. The argument becomes loud, and everyone is on edge. Amir's parents, hearing the chaos, step in to try to stop it, but their involvement only makes things worse. John accuses the whole Khan family of being part of the betrayal. The confrontation reaches its peak as John screams at Emily, telling her she's ruined their marriage and their family. Emily stands there, broken and unable to undo the damage. The pain is clear in both her and John's eyes. The argument leaves everyone shattered, and it's clear that nothing can repair the relationship now. The tension between John and Amir reaches its breaking point on a quiet evening. After the heated confrontation earlier that day, John can no longer control his anger. He finds Amir alone in the front yard of the Khan family's house, where the two men come face to face once again. John, consumed with rage and unable to process the betrayal, immediately begins shouting at Amir, blaming him for everything that has gone wrong in his life. Amir tries to remain calm, pleading with John to stop, but John's fury is too much. Words quickly turn into shoves, and the situation spirals into a violent altercation. Amir, though not wanting to fight, is forced to defend himself as John lunges at him, fists flying. The fight is brutal, fueled by weeks of anger, hurt, and betrayal. Emily, who has been watching from a distance, rushes to intervene, shouting for them both to stop. She pleads with John to calm down, tears streaming down her face as she realizes the situation is dangerously out of control. But in his blind rage, John doesn't hear her. His eyes are fixed on Amir, filled with hatred, and he doesn't care about the consequences of his actions. Emily's desperate attempts to break up the fight are in vain, and she watches in horror as the violence escalates. As the fight continues, John's fury blinds him to everything around him. In a split second, he grabs a nearby object, a heavy metal pipe, his hands shaking as he raises it above Amir. The force of the blow lands with sickening precision, striking Amir in the head. Amir stumbles, his body crumpling to the ground in a lifeless heap. Emily's scream cuts through the night air as she watches Amir fall, the reality of what just happened hitting her with terrifying speed. John, breathing heavily and shaking, looks down at Amir's still form. For a moment, there's a stunned silence. Then the full weight of the murder sinks in. John's rage evaporates in an instant, replaced by shock and disbelief at what he has just done. He stands frozen, staring at Amir's lifeless body, as the sound of Emily's sobs fills the air. In the chaos that follows, Emily drops to her knees, her hands shaking as she reaches for Amir, realizing he's beyond saving. Her mind races with the terrible truth. She has lost everything. Amir is dead, and John's actions have irrevocably changed their lives. Emily tries to help him, but she knows it's too late. The pain of her own guilt is overwhelming. She begins to realize the consequences of the affair, the lies, the betrayals, and now the death of an innocent man. The sound of sirens grows louder as the police arrive on the scene. Neighbors, who have been alerted by the commotion, watch from their windows in shock. Officers rush toward the scene and quickly apprehend John, who is still standing over Amir's body, too dazed and horrified to react. The police take John into custody, charging him with the murder of Amir Khan. Emily, in a daze, is left standing in the wreckage of her life. She's too numb to speak, too crushed by the loss and the irreversible consequences of her actions. As John is led away in handcuffs, Emily is left with nothing but the crushing weight of her choices. The affair, the lies, the confrontation, it has all led to this tragic moment. Emily's mind is a blur, but the reality of the situation is clear. She is the one who has set all of this in motion. Her life, her marriage, and her future have all been destroyed. The weight of her actions presses down on her as she is left to pick up the shattered pieces of everything she once held dear.